We got, is it Zane?
Yeah.
How are you,
How
Zane?
you doing?
I'm good. Well, I actually was originally going to call about a couple other things, but I had an experience yesterday that really came to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
And, I live in Canada, so there are a lot of Christians around, but it's not as, you don't see as much people going, oh, it's a Christian nation thing, right?
Right.
So...
Although yours is, isn't it?
Not like, there are a lot of people who are Christian, but they're not, like, hard, like,
No, I
very
thought-
fundamentalists all...
I was under the impression, either from another call or from something else, that the Canadian Constitution had a very different view on religion than ours did.
Yeah, it's not quite as clear separation that is allowed, which is kind of bad. But I don't like that. But
It may end up being
I've been
better.
fairly lucky through most of my life, really.
Yeah, it may end up being better. It's one of the things we talked about before, where here we are in the world's first truly secular representative republic, and yet the nations that actually have state religions, I mean, right up to and including, England, where you've got the Church of England, seem to have much less problem. And it may be the case that by having an official state church, you eliminate competition. And therefore, over time, the religion gets diluted to the point where it's no longer impactful.
Well, that certainly seems to be what has happened in the UK and
Yeah.
in a lot of the European countries, Western European countries, where just the church attendance is down something like under 10%.
But Zane didn't call in to talk about Great
No,
Britain.
he didn't. Sorry. Tell us what happened. Tell us what you're...
Anyways, I was at work, and I've been reading the Bible recently, at long last, because I've just wanted to actually understand what it is all these people are believing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading it, and the question came up from one of my coworkers, and she asked me if what I thought about it, if it had strengthened my belief or anything. I said, well, actually, no. I'm not all that far into it, but I'm really having a hard time understanding how people who've read this believe it.
Yeah.
Because I'm just from the beginning, I'm looking at God is depicted as a horrible person. So she kind of tentatively asked me, so does that mean you're and she couldn't even get out the word atheist.
Wow.
It just didn't really connect with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, I'm an atheist. And instantly, she had a look of friendship to a look of horror. And she's just, all of a sudden, from just being friendly conversation, everything, she just suddenly was...
Shut down.
So what can I do to convince you? Like, what can I convert? I want to convert you back to the faith.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really shocking to me, because most of my life I've encountered people. Most of my friends, they're either they just kind of lip service to the religion, or they're full out admitting atheism.
Right.
And this is the first time I've ever encountered someone who is really that intense about it.
Yeah, what you're seeing there is her defense mechanisms kicking in. Holding her beliefs as strongly as she does, and as strongly as a lot of Christians do. One of the things that Christianity does, and a lot of religions do this, but Christianity, I think, is extremely insidious about it, is that it essentially, by completely harping on this whole concept of original sin, and you're a sinner from the time you're born, and you deserve hell, and you need to pray and accept Jesus so that you're forgiven and brought back into God's grace, etc., etc., etc. What religion does is I think not only does it strip a person's ability to feel, say, self-esteem based upon things that I think are healthy to build self-esteem upon, like your achievements, what you've accomplished in your life, the way in which you've benefited your community and people around you, things like that. Christianity simply, it tears that down and then it rebuilds it in such a way as to place Christianity at the center of it. So the believer, 100% of that person's sense of self-worth is rooted in the religion. Now, the minute you say, I don't see how anybody can possibly believe this, I think it's rubbish and I'm an atheist, you've essentially you've told her something that has made her feel personally devalued. Okay. And so when that look of horror is you've basically told her, I think your whole life is a lie. And that's a lot for somebody to, you didn't mean to say that.
Yeah.
But, to realize the intensity of the belief and how the belief essentially kind of wraps up the entire believer's psychology into this little bundle and says, look, without me, you're nothing. That's the message. That's Christianity's message to its believer. Without this, you're nothing. Then, so her horrified reaction wasn't so much, directed to you and her saying, how can I convert you? How can I save you? What can I say to you? That was her trying to basically, it's beep, 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 battle stations, red alert. Yeah. She was trying to protect herself, protect her own beliefs from what you had just done with one sentence to them.
And I think not only do I agree with what Martin's saying, I think that's one of three key aspects to that look on her face. One of them is that she may just be completely unfamiliar and have a poor understanding of who atheists are, what atheists believe, etc. But to kind of tie into something Martin said, she might have in that moment realized, and this is going to be insulting to most of you Christians out there, but I was a Christian for 25 years, and I can tell you that from my experience, what I'm about to say is absolutely true, and I think most of you know it. What she probably realized is that while she can talk the talk and do the game really well with other believers, and with people who are already predisposed towards belief, people who have been essentially taught by their parents and society this idea of deference towards religion, she can talk a good game to those people. Which camera is it? You guys are switching the lights. I'm all confused now.
Yeah. Anyway, go on.
Anyway, she can talk a good game with regard to those people, but she's never had to face anybody who had a legitimate objection to her beliefs. She can't defend in the type of position that you've put her in simply by saying, I'm an atheist and this seems unbelievable to me. That's something that most Christians, when they witness, don't ever have to deal with.
Yeah, and it's because...
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah. Christian culture is that instant. I'm sorry, don't mean to interrupt, but I was just going to say something. Look at Christian culture. You have Christian pop and Christian rock concerts, and you have Christian novels and Christian coffee houses and Christian businesses. There's even a Christian Yellow Pages so that Christians can know what the Christian businesses are to go to if you need a Christian plumber. All of this building up of a Christian culture that allows them not to leave,
Joe, I'm sorry, Joe.
Oh, yeah, right, anyway. This just serves to insulate them in that way that you were describing.
Yeah.
So that when they finally meet somebody from outside, it's like, what do you mean? This is what, Noah's Ark? That's rubbish. Come on, how did they scrape the poo? Right? And then does not compute. That really just sort of flips them out.
My favorite thing is the traditional story about Jonah and the whale. Mm-hmm. When you say, when you make an objection and say, oh, come on, now, do you really believe that a guy lived in the belly of a whale for 3 days? I'm not even going to put a number on it. A good chunk of the time, what I hear from these learned Christians is, well, the Bible doesn't say whale, it says great fish.
Oh.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah. That makes much difference.
Yeah, so great fish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they don't excrete digestive juices in their stomachs.
See, quite frankly, between great fish and whale, I think I'd at least find whale slightly more plausible because it's at least a mammal, and maybe there might be things about the mammal that might help, keep a human alive. But maybe God fused his, blood system in with the whales. But now you got him in a fish? Are you kidding me? No, it's silly. I mean, they don't even bother to realize that the thing that people are objecting to, the actual absurdity of, it's like they didn't hear you. They didn't, oh, no, it says great fish. Like, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
All the defenses that I have heard of, 2 Kings 2, chapters 23 chapter 2, 23 and 24, the whole bit about God sending the bears to slaughter the children because they made fun of Prophet Elijah's bald head. And I've heard that bunch of children described as
a gang of youth.
Yeah, something
like they're Crips.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're sort of the ancient Crips or something like that. It's like, well, no, let me see. I'll just get online and I'll look at something like 15 different translations of the Bible, which you can do at the click of a mouse online.
Yeah.
and see what ends. Well, let's
But
see.
the thing is, even if their case is good, even if
Yeah.
that passage did refer to a gang of youths who were threatening him with violence,
You've still got God slaughtering people with bears.
so
Little
what?
kids.
Until
Yeah.
they'd actually committed violence, I
Yeah.
couldn't see any good reason to sanction violence. But come on.
Well, I think we've.
Anyway, yeah.
Anyway. Sorry to sort of like just.
We stole your whole call, Zane. You got any last minute stuff?
Well, I do have the other thing that I wanted to, before I had this experience, was I always hear the argument, like, it's not every single Christian, whatever, but you get them, they say, God is everything. And I go, well, if God is everything, and you worship God, then you worship everything. And if you're worshiping everything, presumably you're worshiping everything equally, because otherwise it's kind of saying, I worship God, but I worship his right pinky a little bit more.
Yeah.
And
like
so,
that.
so if you worship everything equally, then effectively you're not really worshiping anything, because you're not giving any special attention to anything.
And then worship becomes a meaningless act because
Exactly.
everything is getting it. So
See, that's a much more highbrow tact than I would have taken, because I would have gone to something absurd that they worship. But yeah, I like yours better.
yeah, I'm talking about a pile of dog poo or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I like yours better. Yours.
I will say that when you hear from those Christians, theists, believers, whatever, who go the God is everything route, there's a friend of the show. I hope George calls in. I'm going to wait because there's a chance that he might, and he can give his analogy for the plane crash that he told me about the other day. But essentially, they've chucked so much of their religion, and they're desperately trying to grasp on to anything that makes some sense to them and keeps something special and sacred, because they can't jettison all of it. And my question is, why not? Why can't you jettison all of it? What is it? What is their value? What is it that you're getting out of this that is, not replaceable and improved upon, perhaps, by dealing with reality on reality's terms, by having reasonable, evidence-based
But you're asking them.
assessments of
But
the
you're asking
universe.
them there now to take an intellectual assessment of their beliefs, and at that point, it's no longer about that with them. Like I said, it's the without this you're nothing. The emotional brainwashing of the reason they can't jettison all of it is because it's personally devaluing. They've chucked themselves out. It's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. This is the way they see it. They
bought into the big lie.
They have no worth as anything at all if Christianity is untrue, and that's the hook. And I think the most insidious bit of the indoctrination.
And we'd like to tell all of you that you do, in fact, have value, despite the fact that Christianity is false.
Yes.
You have, if for no other reason, then you have value to yourself. But I'm pretty sure that, with some exceptions, you have value to other people as well.
You have value to your family members. You
friends,
have value
family,
to
loved ones.
the people around you.
You are a value to society, assuming that you're going to at least be a productive, cooperative member of society. Granted, I don't think for a moment that humans have any intrinsic value. I mean, any more than anything.
Well, value
else.
is a judgment. It's something that we just. There's nothing in nature.
It's like when they say it's worth whatever the buyer's going to pay for it. I mean, we assert a value on it, and my value for something may be different from yours. But I can tell you that, despite the fact that I actually actively despise some people who push notions like this. I find them very despicable, this idea of threatening children with hell and telling them that they were born bad and worthless. It doesn't tell them if you love them also or that there's a God that loves them also. The purpose of being a parent is to raise a child that is physically, mentally, and emotionally sound and ready for the world. And when you begin with these notions, no matter how you sugarcoat them, that they are undeserving of love, but they'll get it anyway, that nothing they could ever do could possibly be good enough to satisfy. I mean, if you were a parent and did that, that nothing they
It's
could
child
ever do
abuse.
could satisfy you, we would look at it as child abuse. And so why is it any better when you're the parent and you say nothing you could ever do could satisfy God? It doesn't matter how generous you are, how much you care about other people, how well you play with others, how kind you are, whether you value somebody else's life more than your own, whether you're constantly trying to help. Nothing you can possibly do can make you worthy. So, but this God guy, he's going to go ahead and love you anyway, even though you don't deserve it.
But you always got to be on your toes.
So you've devalued people and set them up for this mindset that they're devalued, and you've also established this, completely countermanded the idea of personal responsibility for action. Now all of a sudden, well, since it doesn't matter what I do, I'm not deserving, I can go do anything and just get forgiveness after the fact. Mm-hmm. It's an absurd and immoral system that we just accept. People in societies generally accept as that's just the way things are. Ooh, Jesus loves me. Jesus loves you so much that if you don't love him back, he's going to send you to hell and torture you forever. Well, that's some good love. And the absurdity, this is on a T-shirt that I was looking at the other day, the absurdity that Christianity teaches is that a Jewish zombie wants you to eat his flesh and promise to love him forever so that he can forgive you of made-up sins that were the result of a woman listening to a talking snake and eating part of a tree.
That's Christianity, people. I mean, that's what you believe if you're Christian.
Yeah.
And
The
you
Jewish
wonder why
zombie
we
cult.
think it's ridiculous?
But
Come on.
well, Zane, we appreciate the call. We got full lines
Thanks, man.
today.
We've kept you online a long
And
time.
I'm going to send you an email along with that joke you just said. It's a quick little thing I made up using the idea of the Bible, using the Christian rules of the Bible can be proof.
Yeah.
And it's just a quick proof that if God exists, he's a horny old man. And I'll send you that email.
Definitely send it.
Do, please, yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks, Zane. And
Bye-bye.
as a reminder to everybody else, if you don't get through on the phone today or you don't want to, you can email tv@atheist-community.org. That goes to myself, most of the co-hosts, and the people behind the scenes. We can't answer every one of them, but we do read all of them, assuming you've made it through the spam filter. One thing you can do to get by the spam filter is to include AETV or NPR for Nonprofits Radio in the subject line of your email. And by the way, please have a subject line in your email.
Yeah, we get a few of those that just say none.
The ones that have a blank subject line, I'm much less eager to click on them. If you can put up something and don't try and draw my attention by referring to like nude women. Because
well, I think that
I get
it's most of the no subject line emails we get are from Christian viewers, and I think that they don't want to have a Christian topic in the line and think we'll ignore it for that reason.
Yeah.
But I want to by all what makes you think we would do that? By all means, those are the ones we would read.
Yeah, if you want the numbers, if you actually were able to come and read through my email, I think you'll find that the people who are more likely to get a response from me, and are more likely to have a long, drawn-out conversation. Not the people who agree with me. Mm-hmm. It's the people who disagree with me and do so in an open, intelligent fashion so that we can have a communication. I mean, there have been times on the show, you've done it, I've done it, Jeff D's done it, where the calls may get a little nasty snide. There may be some condescension, arrogance. Sorry if it's perceived that way. In reality, I'm not necessarily trying to convince anybody of anything. I'm eager to have a conversation that, if it strengthens your faith, I'm kind of fine with that as long as, I prefer, obviously, that not be the case, but as long as we're having an open, honest conversation, that's what I enjoy. I want to hear what people believe and why they believe it. I want to know what your justification is. I didn't just chuck God out one day because I decided, hey, it's more fun to sin. Or matter of fact, I'm probably doing fewer sinful things as a non-believer than I did at times. Well, that may not be
Well, there was that thing with the ferret.
Really?
Well,
you have to tell me about that after the show's over.
Yeah.
Anyway. There's like 35 minutes left to show in the show.
Yes, and we've had a couple guys holding for a good while.
Yeah, and we don't want to keep you holding, especially since everybody seems to be calling from out of town today. So we got